The former Yugoslavia embarked on several ambitious tank projects, reflecting its desire for self-sufficiency in defense production and its aspiration for a strong military. One of the most notable projects was the development of the M-84 main battle tank, which was based on the Soviet T-72 design but incorporated significant modifications and enhancements. When the M-84 entered service, it was considered a good design. Not stopping there, Yugoslavia continued another more ambitious project to replace the M-84 in the future, the M-90 Vihor MBT project. The Vihor designed to compete with the M1 and T-90. The development of the Vihor began in the late 1980s. It was developed to the point where operational prototypes were built and tested, but the collapse of the Yugoslavia ended the project. Reportedly, only 2 Vihor prototypes were built. The Vihor aimed to incorporate advanced technologies and design features to enhance its combat capabilities. The overall Vihor hull was rather similar in its design. It could be divided into 3 sections. The front part, where the driver was positioned, was protected with a simpler but steep angle armor plate. In the center, the turret with its main armament was positioned. Lastly, to the rear, the fully enclosed engine compartment was located. Its construction was made by welding mostly flat armor plates, with the exception of the front part. The Vihor hull design was more or less a direct copy of the M-84. To the front, there was a hatch for the driver that opened to the right side. The engine compartment was covered with a much larger access hatch. Propulsion is provided by a V46 TK1, a diesel V12 engine with 1,200 horsepower. The transmission is the same as later used in the M-95 Deckman, with 5 forward gears and 1 reverse gear. Its suspension and running gear are very similar to those of the T-72, and might in fact be derived from it. With 1,200 horsepower propelling only 44 tons, the M-90 Vihor has a surprisingly high power-to-weight ratio of 27.27 horsepower per ton. It has been claimed that the M-90 was the first tank in history to have achieved a power-to-weight ratio this high. A snooker is fitted as well to allow for deep water floating. The main gun of the M-90 Vihor is a Yugoslav-made smoothbore 125mm gun developed from the Soviet Tu-46. It is claimed to be manufactured using novel materials and forging techniques that allow for higher continuous rate of fire and a longer tube life than the original Tu-46. As with all smoothbore 125mm guns, this weapon fires APFSDS, heat, and high explosive fragmentation rounds, and a gun-launched ATGM capability was included as well. The automatic loader is unoriginal and has been claimed by the developer to allow a 10 round per minute rate of fire. The replacer is also an unoriginal model, said to contain 340 less components than the autoloaders used in the T-72 and M-84. Between the loader and the replacer, a total of 45 rounds are carried. Secondary armament consists of an M-86 7.62mm coaxial machine gun and an M87 12.7mm heavy machine gun on the roof. The electronics used in the M-90 Vihor are unimportant over the M84 as well, with a thermal imaging system, laser range fighter, and a digital ballistic computer as standard equipment. A hunter-killer capability via the TC's periscope was claimed as well. Despite the challenges and eventual dissolution of Yugoslavia, this ambitious tank project underscored the country's efforts to establish a robust defense industry and modernize its armed forces. Despite failure, it left a legacy of innovation and technological expertise that continues to influence military developments in the region.